Hey, I'm Butterfly.
Hey, I'm Firefly.
Have you ever wondered if we aren't being told the truth about everything?
What have we been lied to about? Join us as we have conversations and ask questions about everything. We invite you to keep an open mind and consider the unfathomable.
Let's break the chains that enslave our minds. Come on, let's go down the rabbit hole. Hey, Firefly, what's going on?
What's up, Butterfly?
Well, are we going down a rabbit hole?
I think so. I'm so glad.
I am
What are we
too.
talking about?
Well, I had an interesting epiphany, or maybe it was a revelation
Mhm.
over the weekend I
Yeah.
was thinking about. And I have a question. Is Mother Nature being micromanaged?
Yeah. Well, we did talk about how like Larry Fink is kind of like the CEO of Earth, you
Mm-hmm.
know? So I think what's going on right now is they're like pretty much saying, we control everything that takes place here on Earth.
Yeah.
Everything.
It kind of seems like they're, you know, they like to talk about their um earth modification techniques,
Yes.
because we can't use those other words. Those words that start with cly
Where like
and
75% of the engineers in Silicon Valley will be Indian dudes and they'll be watching and they'll be like, Butterfly? Butterfly, we have told you before.
we know you are using codes.
You say Earth modification. Now we know what that is. You're gonna get slapped with the UN fact check.
Yeah, it's, that stuff that starts with cly and ends with
Ainge.
Ainge.
Like Danny Ainge from the Celtics back in the 80s. But yeah, I think what you're kind of looking at is them kind of cramming people into this science worldview that we are
Yeah,
talking about.
yeah.
And the science worldview is like, well, you know, not only are humans bad, but we need to do whatever we can to mitigate all of this earth modification that's taking place.
Well, it's just, if you really think about it, it just is weird. Like they come up with all these plans that never really seem to work, and they always end up screwing things up.
Yeah.
And there's a lot of like little like micromanaging going on in every little aspect,
And it's all
you
in the
know?
service of making everything suck,
Yeah.
which
And
is weird.
they say it's to like save the earth or right?
Save the planet
Yeah.
or the earth,
Yeah.
whatever you want to call it.
And or to make things better and like make things not die off, or maybe they want to kill off certain things but not others, but
What I think might be going on, because we kind of hinted at this, because remember um a few weeks ago you went to the nursery.
yeah.
And remember
Hmm.
the nursery worker was a walker.
They're all walkers.
It was a walker.
Hmm.
So there's a brand of blue pill.
Hmm.
And I think there's a brand of blue pill that's kind of like, you take care of plants.
It's so weird because it seems like such a jump to like go there, but it somehow makes sense.
I think
It
so.
somehow totally makes
And
sense.
I kind of have a running hypothesis.
Okay.
So my hypothesis is this. I think that the cult is planning on eliminating all of us useless eaters pretty soon. Like it's coming.
Well, they kind of succeeded in eliminating a lot of people
They've done a lot.
recently.
Yeah. But they're going, we haven't even begun. We're really going to start trimming the herd now. So I think what they want to do,
Probably.
they're
They're
going to
pruning.
cull the herd.
Hmm.
Yeah, right. So I think what they're kind of doing is saying, let's have like certain, because they've learned to control large swaths of the population through media manipulation
Right.
and Kool-Aid
Driving behavior.
driving behaviors like Larry Fink.
Hmm.
So one of the behaviors they seem to be driving is this micromanagement of the natural world.
Yeah. It's really weird. So
Now wait, here's the second part of my hypothesis.
okay, do
So
tell.
why are they micromanaging the natural world? I think now I'm a bad person.
Well, we know that.
A bad person and I'm a conspiracy theorist.
Yeah.
I think they have this special brand of Kool-Aid that makes certain walkers like go and tend to plants and be like
Yeah.
little nature micromanagers
Yeah.
because they want the earth to be like this big, beautiful garden for them when we're all cold.
Oh my God, that's so sick.
You think it could be
I think it could be true.
feasible?
Yeah, totally. So
So,
sick. And I think we mentioned this in a previous episode where this like topic kind of came up. And remember how like trendy and popular like the whole houseplant thing became during the cooties fiasco? It
yes.
became like really, it was like we were
Do a
back in the
garden at
70s
home
again. Yeah.
with your mask on in your house by yourself and
Yeah.
take care of your fern.
So I was recently on a little day trip to one of our national parks,
Yes.
and it's an island.
Okay.
And it was really interesting because there was this really nice tour guide who was explaining all the like rules about the island and everything. You know, there's a lot of rules when you go to these national parks.
Yeah.
Yeah, but
So lame.
it's really
Like
it's not very natural.
now, see, there's certain rules that I could kind of understand. Like,
Yeah,
okay, well, don't leave any trash out there.
right.
I like that idea.
Yeah,
That's a good one. But like some of their other rules might be like kind of psychotic.
it was a little rigid, but the thing that I started to see this theme, which made me think of like the bigger picture that's happening in the world. Um, and it really made me have the question that it sort of seems like Mother Nature is being micromanaged because, like, this tour guide was telling us all these different facts and things about the island. And I guess, like, at one point, they brought like sheep and pigs to the island because they thought it was going to be a good idea. But, like, that turned out to be a really bad idea. So they were going to have to, like,
That was like micromanagers back in the day.
yeah. So they decided to get rid of them. So they had like hunting and stuff, and they talked about how like, you know, how would certain like, you know, plants end up out there, and it, you know, like the easiest way would be like the birds are flying out there, you know, and then they poop out seeds and stuff like that,
Yeah.
and then
That sounds like natural and
that
organic.
that sounds sort of natural, right? And
Yeah.
that's what happens. But then she talked about how like some of the plants that were growing there were invasive and they were not native. And
It's not native.
I thought that's really weird because if they just started growing there, it was probably from one of the birds that flew out and pooped them out, right? So how is that like not native? Like it seems like Mother Nature like kind of planned it to be that way,
And
or
why do they make a determination of what's invasive?
I know
It's like we determine.
it's like they're determining what's invasive. And then they talked about how uh, there were these certain birds that were there that were, I guess they ate the animals, which seemed weird to me too. Like I was picturing, how does a bird eat like a sheep? I don't know, it seems kind
Well,
of
the only
weird.
thing I can think of is, I mean, if the sheep died and
They're
then
just
it's
eating
like,
the parts and
because I know like there's like vultures and
yeah,
scavengers,
right.
so maybe
Maybe it was
that's
like
what.
that. Yeah.
I can't imagine like a bird like flying off like "Wah!" with like a
Like a
sheep.
sheep,
That's
like
gnarly.
maybe a baby lamb or
Or
something.
maybe it's like pterodactyls. They're 4 billion years old and they're
Yeah,
still out there.
that could be.
That's probably what it is.
But they didn't want those birds there. They decided those birds shouldn't be there. So they went through like great extreme measures to remove these birds from the island, um, because they
And
just
did we like pay for that?
I think our tax money goes to like I think these people
Yeah.
work for like the government and we're paying for these things to happen. And
Like
the
it seems like we could have maybe because I look at like some pressing problems
yeah.
that probably need attention. That probably that money could have been better spent.
Well, I kind of thought about that because I was like, it seems like a lot of micromanaging going on just to control like the plants and the animals like in these national parks and islands that maybe could just be controlled through nature, like Mother
I'm
Nature,
starting to think that
you
that's
know?
kind of like a symptom of their pathology is they just feel like they just have to control everything and everything they touch turns to crap.
That's exactly right. I mean, so they talked about these birds that they didn't want there, but then um as she was telling us this big, huge raven flew over with like these tags on his wings, like these big old blue tags.
Poor bird.
I know. And
So lame.
she was like, that's a bad bird.
You know
That
why? Because he's in the crypts. He's not in the Bloods.
Yeah, yeah. And
He's got blue.
she said that was a bad bird because he was going around and eating the eggs of other birds. And so he was
I
gonna
think animals kind of do stuff like that.
Yeah, and so they wanted to monitor that particular bird to make sure that that bird was not going to teach the other birds how to do that bad behavior. And I
You
was
know what it sounds? It sounds like kind of like, I'm serious. It sounds like kind of the way that they do our society, where
Yeah,
they go, well, people who think like you're invasive.
you're invasive and you're bad and we're going to monitor you.
We're going to micromanage you out of the island.
Yeah. And it was
I think that's kind of like an outcropping of that kind of mentality.
it's a whole mentality. And I was thinking, okay, how many people are on the payroll just to micromanage that raven who was a bad
You know what?
bird, you know?
That's like a perfect parallel of like this whole notion of, you know what, in my opinion, this shouldn't be this. So we're going to take drastic measures to make this not be. Like, you know who does that is Bill Gates.
Oh yeah.
Bill Gates, the sun is too bright.
Yeah.
So we're going to take drastic measures and we're going to like deflect
Well,
some of the stuff.
that's all part of micromanaging Mother Nature. I mean, so they were going on and on about how they had to like monitor this one particular bad bird to make sure it wasn't going to teach the other birds. Like, I'm thinking, okay, that bird figured it out. Like, probably those other birds would figure it out too. I don't think they need that bad bird to actually teach them, you know? But they were going to make sure they watched that because they didn't want the eggs to be eaten. But I was thinking, but didn't you want those other birds to be removed from the island? Like maybe like this raven that was eating all the bird eggs would have taken care of that problem if you had
You know what
just
they're like?
let
They're
him
like,
do it.
they're like, you need to
You know?
shut up because we just control things just for the sake of controlling them.
Yeah. So I
So not only do they control, so that's interesting. So they not only control the humans that are on the tour, they control the animals that you're on the tour viewing.
yeah. But I thought it was super weird that all of these things were being so micromanaged. And I did start to think about like Bill Gates, like how he wants to dim the sun because, I don't know, what's his reason for that? Or too much carbon or something?
It's like these huge overreactions to kind of a wobbly hypothesis.
Right.
Like they're kind of going, okay, first of all, you guys need to get on board with what we're saying.
Yeah.
And I'm like, I don't know if I agree with your premise, first of
Right.
all. I don't think that, we need to like hands-on control the weather and
Yeah.
control the animals. We don't need to do that. These things existed before we even were existent as
Yeah.
humans. So they existed before us. They can take care of themselves.
I know.
It's kind of presumptuous of these people to think that it's up to us to
To
micromanage
fix the problem.
existence.
No, I thought about that because I was like, well, they've been here a long time, these animals. Like, how did they manage themselves before? Like, the people came along to tag their wings and everything. Like, I'm pretty sure that they were able to manage their ecosystem before we were there, like meddling and getting involved. You know what I
That's
mean?
what I think this totally conjures up is this phenomena of like we control the entire universe.
Hmm.
Everything. They don't even really want you to just go have sex and have a baby.
No.
They're like, by the way, what color eyes do you want? You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Like they want to leave nothing to
Mother Nature.
Mother Nature or God.
Yeah.
They hate that idea of God. It's
Yeah.
like there's no God. Remember, it's fake news.
Yeah.
That's like Harari. He probably would be like the first guy going, "Well, they have to get rid of this invasive species."
Yeah. Invasive species. And how do they decide what or who is invasive? Maybe you're the invasive
Well, I
species
was
they
just
want
going
to
to
get rid
say.
of.
I mean, if you kind of expand upon the invasive species kind of idea, humans are kind of an invasive species.
I think
That's
that
what they've kind of come to the conclusion.
I think those people, the they that we
Yeah,
talk about, I think they think that we are the invasive
we're
species.
invasive.
Yeah. We're not really supposed to be here.
Yeah.
So they got to get rid of us.
That was kind of like the nature of like do you remember the Georgia Guidestones?
Mm-hmm.
That was kind of like what they were saying.
Yeah.
They're saying, humans are a virus. They've
Mm-hmm.
infected the earth.
We need to get rid of most
We
of
need
them.
to, they're invasive. We need
And
to eradicate
they'll
them.
decide which ones are invasive.
So that's kind of what it is. It's like the same mentality of like, well, see, that weed right there, that's invasive. It's not native.
Yeah.
Well, that's what they're thinking about like humans now.
Yeah.
They're like, but not them, of course. The
No, no.
elites, they're the native.
Right.
We're the invasive.
Yeah, they're the native that, like, well, a lot of those people are all sort of like, like the royal people, they say they're all like inbred and stuff. So
Bloodline.
they probably think they are the native ones because they're all like related to each other.
We're the only thing that grows on this planet. You got to be eradicated. And I think
Yeah.
that's kind of like tagging that poor bird and like
It's bad.
he's a bad bird.
That one bird was bad.
So it's almost like there's political correctness in the bird world.
Yeah.
It's
They've
like,
decided.
yeah,
Yeah.
he's a racist.
Maybe because he was only eating certain eggs.
Yeah. He's a racist. He's kind of like patriarchal.
Yeah.
That's what he was.
But I mean, I thought like it's so weird, like they have all these people, like I'm a marine biologist or like the biologists that are working on these
It's kind of like
problems,
you know what it reminds me of is remember from the previous episode where the one guy was like, yeah, I'm a geneticist.
A geopaleontologist.
I'm a paleogeneticist.
Yeah. Or whatever, yeah.
Oh, you know what I just thought of? That's probably your tour guide's boyfriend.
Oh, for
So
sure.
she's like, I'm a marine biologist and I make earrings.
Yeah.
And my boyfriend just found a dire wolf.
He's working on the dire wolf
He's
cloning.
working on the dire wolf
Yeah.
bomb.
The thing is, like, so like this tour guide was super cute and super sweet, and she was super excited about her job. And I think there's a lot of people like that. Like, they think like tagging the bird wings and stuff is a good idea because they're going to
She's
save.
like, I love my blue pill. I love my blue pill.
They're going to save the other birds from having their eggs eaten. But meanwhile, there's like birds that they want to get rid of out there for whatever reason. And they could have left that bad bird to do the job and he would have just eaten all the eggs. And those
She's one of those people who it's hard to red pill because she's so drunk on the Kool-Aid and happily drunk on the Kool-Aid.
Yeah, and there's a lot of people like that. So a lot of these people, like, don't you know somebody who works for like Caltrans or something that
Yes.
Yeah.
And they go, no, you can't build here. There's a frog that's on the endangered species list. Which, first of all, I don't even lend a lot of credence to their endangered species lists.
I don't either.
I mean, what am I supposed to just believe what you tell me based on, because have you ever heard that old adage? There's lies, there's damn lies, and then there's statistics.
That's a good one.
That's what they do. They kind of use statistics to like shove you into a false worldview.
Mm-hmm.
And it's like quote unquote statistics.
And
it's in danger. It's like,
yeah.
Well,
what so would that be like a huge problem to lose that particular frog?
Well, they're like
if he had to move down the road a little ways, would that be like the end of the world?
I mean, yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, so you're going to build the road here. So he's going to have to figure it out.
Yeah.
Like humans take precedence before a frog.
Right.
Maybe. But they're like, no.
No. We got to save but then like there's the other people that are like, but we got to tag that thing so it doesn't like
that's another thing.
Get rid of
the animals alone.
Yeah.
It's like, oh.
But there's probably a whole like huge workroom or whatever, people on a payroll like working on
funding
all of this.
And what they're doing is turning an island from a wild area to like a zoo.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, well, the only thing that lives out here is stuff that we want.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, well, then that's not really wild.
Right.
That's a garden.
Mm-hmm.
That's like a garden zoo. It's like if you go to the Bronx Zoo. You ever been to the Bronx Zoo?
No.
It's in the Bronx, so it's kind of like a bad area.
Yeah.
But if you go there, it's a big garden, and then they have a zoo. Sounds like what they've kind of turned the island into.
Well, it kind of reminded me of like, have you ever been to a botanical garden?
Yeah.
That's how that is too. They decide like what's going to be, preserved.
It's kind of like Tim Cook. We curate the content.
Yeah.
They curate the organisms.
Yeah.
This is what lives here.
Like there's a botanical garden nearby, a fairly new one, and they're like acting really weird like that too. Like, oh, you got to stay off like certain areas because you'll trample some of the plants. Which, yeah, okay, that's fine. I understand that. But those plants that they're so worried about are weeds. They're basically
You
weeds.
know what?
They grow wild everywhere.
It's so you know what it kind of brings up a larger phenomenon that's going on that's really getting to annoy the crap out of me.
Mm,
And that is micromanagement.
that's what it is.
Micromanagement
Micromanagement.
across the board
Yeah.
is getting completely out of hand.
Everything is
You're
micromanaged.
telling me where I can stand, you're telling me where I can drive, you're telling me where I can live. Pretty soon you're going to just tell me you can't really live anymore.
Yeah. And you're telling the animals. I mean, the wildlife and the wild scenery and nature is being micromanaged. So Mother Nature is even being micromanaged.
Like
Weird.
that crow's like getting canceled.
Yeah.
He's like
I was thinking, what are they going to do to that poor
he's getting
thing?
voted
Like,
off of Pleasure
he's
Island.
getting voted off the island. Like, he's been so bad, they're probably going to ship him like off to the mainland or something. And
He can come hang out with us.
then he's gonna fly back.
Yeah.
Just for an egg. He's like kind of craving for that certain
See,
egg.
I think that's it's so deep. It's so deep, and it's another one of those rabbit holes where it connects
goes,
with a bunch of other ones.
yeah.
Because it's the behavior.
Mm-hmm.
It's the micromanagement of even nature.
Mm-hmm.
That's the behavior. I think that's what I rejected a long time ago.
Yeah.
Is I went, no. I mean, it's not that I don't want to obey laws, but quit micromanaging me and telling me all of these little hoops I have to jump through and all of these little like details that I have to make sure
Yeah.
I'm tending to.
Yeah, and all these like even the creatures are being micromanaged. Like, this poor bird just wants to go have his dinner, and now like he's being like tagged, So it's just
Everything is a big micromanagement. And I think that's why they're cramming us into this digital world.
yeah,
Because what happens in digital world, every little thing you do,
micromanaged.
It's got like a digital like record. It's like you went here, you
Yeah.
bought this. You went here, you bought this, you said this. They want to have like a comprehensive account
Right.
of your behavior.
So they can micromanage us.
So they can tell you, by the way, we're just gonna tell you, we're gonna curate your behavior. It's better than driving behavior.
You went here and you did this. You went here and you did this. Okay, we don't want you to go here anymore.
No more here.
No more here. You can go there.
You do this and you do it this way. That's how it is.
Yeah.
That's what, and that's you know what, that would kind of bug me if I went out to the island and was expecting a wild experience, and it felt like full on micromanagement the whole time.
Yeah.
I bet there was like no, sir, stay on the path.
Oh yeah, for sure. Because you might like step on a weed.
You're trouncing, sir. It's like, well, dude, I'm like visiting.
Well, it was.
Can
funny.
I visit? Can I exist?
It was funny because at one point we were told to stay on the path so we wouldn't like stomp on some of those plants, but those were actually the plants that
These
they
are the
said were
invasive
invasive.
ones. I'm just walking on the invasive ones.
Help me to get rid of those.
Yeah. She'd be like, we'd prefer you didn't.
We have our own ways of micromanaging those plants.
We eradicate them our own ways, sir.
We use Roundup.
We have a special chemical that seeps into the soil and kills everything. I mean, it's kind of annoying because it's totally like, well, we're going to create all of this dust and we're going to reflect the sun back because the sun's too bright.
Yeah, now the sun is too bright. So now they've got to like micromanage the sun. Like, who in the world thinks that's a good idea? Yeah.
So were you around when everything came to be? So you know how to engineer everything perfectly.
Well, they tell us that there were animals 200 million years ago. So I think the sun is.
So Bill Gates must be really old.
I think the sun has been here for a long time.
Long time.
Like a really long time.
And I think about it like, okay, when were we actually using our own hands to try to control the weather? Never. And everything, guess what, existed. We still exist. I live.
Mm-hmm.
I live now.
Well,
so we didn't have to have you micromanaging everything before.
No.
And I don't think we need it now.
And it's kind of like, kind of goes along with how their stories don't really seem to match up all the time anyway. Like if there were animals, if they, they believe the story that they tell us that there were animals living 200 million years ago,
Yeah.
wouldn't they like think that, it's interesting that the animals back then didn't need the sun to be like dimmed or anything and
Yeah.
they didn't need to be micromanaged, but now we do, suddenly now we do, I
Thank
guess, because
goodness.
there's too many of us.
There's too many of us, and we need people like Bill Gates to step in
Because of the earth modification.
because he's so smart. He knows how to perfectly deflect sunlight to the right amount.
Yeah, without like hurting us or making us sick or
And
anything.
he's able to mathematically figure out, like, with this much population, we have to deflect this percentage of the sun. And so we use this much special stardust that we put in the atmosphere.
And wouldn't you think though, with like lots of people, like if there's too many of us, that we would need like maybe more sunlight?
I mean,
Like I
yeah,
don't think we would need less.
I
You
definitely
know what
don't.
I mean?
I don't agree with their premise.
I mean, that doesn't even really make sense.
I don't agree with their premise.
You know?
The other thing I don't really agree with is this whole idea of geoengineering.
Mm-hmm.
Have you heard about this?
Mm-hmm.
You ever watch Dane Whittington?
Mm-mm.
Oh, you gotta, I'll have to show you him.
Okay.
Dane Whittington is this guy who's been studying geoengineering for like 30 years.
Wow.
Yeah. And he's down in Huntington Beach. And
Do you think
he,
we're going to get tagged for saying those words? Geoengineering.
I don't know,
It's kind of like the earth modification stuff.
some Indian dude is like, we know what that is.
You're not allowed to talk about
That is,
geoengineering.
as far as you
Not
know,
a fire.
Firefly, as far as you know, that does not exist. Because they don't really want us talking about that.
No, they don't.
But it's real.
Yeah.
HARP, you've heard of HARP?
Uh-huh.
So HARP is like who did that North Carolina
I
hurricane.
know.
Now,
So what did this guy say?
well, so he's saying all the governments around the world have been geoengineering the
Manipulating.
weather for decades.
Wow.
None of our weather patterns are organic. Everything is geoengineered
That's interesting.
around the world. So it's more of this like we meddle
It's
and
micromanaging.
make it worse.
Mhm.
Like in North Carolina,
Mhm.
they meddled, and I'm thinking they did it on purpose because
Yeah.
there was like this strange like lithium mines near Asheville, North Carolina.
They like to do this kind of stuff to
Yeah,
to do us,
they did. They do us, but then they also harp us. Harp is like, when you get the full treatment. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
It's like a happy ending. It's like you get the full treatment. You get the harp and the dew.
Oh yeah.
I think they do South Carolina because now there was a huge gnarly fire in Myrtle Beach,
Yeah.
and that kind of just got brushed under the rug.
Yeah.
And there was like, by the way, Myrtle Beach burned down. No, nothing to see here. And oh yeah, it's a 15-minute city.
Mhm.
It's going to be a 15-minute city like Maui and like Pacific Palisades. But okay, move on.
Yeah.
But like 6 weeks before that, we also did a hurricane in eastern North Carolina that never goes there. But don't worry about that either.
Right.
But they did create that. So I think there's this weird like obsession to meddle.
Yeah, there is.
Not just with nature, it's like even with my life, my speech,
Mhm.
my habits,
Mhm.
my family.
That's the whole point. And it's like, most of the time, if people would just like not butt in and just mind their own business, most things would probably be okay.
You know what
know
it
what I mean?
also is too, is you have to drink this one Kool-Aid.
Mhm.
What Kool-Aid is really important? It's crisis.
Crisis Kool-Aid.
It's crisis.
Yeah.
We need to meddle with everything because we're in an emergency. You're going to die.
Yeah.
Actually, we want you to die, but we don't want you to know that. But you're going to die. And that's like,
We're
kind of
going
like
to tell you we don't want you to.
kind of like AOC. It's like Earth modification is our World War II.
Mm-hmm.
It's World War II. Okay. It's like we're going to die any day. So what you need to do is submit to our meddling. We control everything and just understand that we have to because you're going to die. But we control everything because we want you to die. So it's kind of weird.
It is
So
weird.
you kind of have to like drink the Kool-Aid and kind of just contradict yourself.
Well, everything they do is a contradiction. Like their ideas are totally like hypocritical and they're all contradictions.
I just thought of a hilarious scene.
What?
Like, what if you took it upon yourself to just go start removing some of the invasive species that they tell you? They're like, oh, those weeds over there are invasive. They're not native. And so you just go over and start ripping them out of the ground.
Yeah,
Oh my God, they would
they
be
would
like,
be so mad.
sir, you need to go back to the boat the rest of the day. But wait, I thought these were invasive.
I was weeding.
We do the eradication, sir.
Yeah, I'm sure they have like a specific way they want it
And
done.
they would get really mad if you
Yeah,
eradicated it your own way.
totally.
Or just like said, well, I'm just volunteering today,
Yeah,
even though I paid to come out here. And that's another thing too.
yeah.
I wonder how much the budget is for them to go out and
That's what
micromanage the item.
that's what I'm wondering. Like, how much money are they spending on like tagging these poor birds and stuff like
So
that?
much.
So much money.
I bet you if see, that's the thing. Have you ever noticed how budgets are real opaque?
Oh yeah.
We never get any
No,
transparency.
no, we don't.
Like if you saw how much, first of all, that little tour guide girl is probably making,
Hmm. Probably a lot.
a lot,
Yeah.
probably more than I would pay her. And then also how much we spend on just that project, quote unquote.
The tagging of the crows project.
Well, that poor crow. She just has to be grabbed by some like
I was thinking,
lesbian.
how did they do it? Like how I was thinking, did they like trap him and then like, they have to pierce his wings and stuff? It sounds. Now where's PETA when this stuff is happening?
Well, PETA's in the cult too.
I know.
So that's
So
what I noticed.
they go along with certain things. Like they like they're hypocritical too because they go
You know
along
what I think PETA's main mission is to get you to stop eating meat.
right.
That's their main
That's their
driver.
main yeah,
So something like this doesn't really pertain.
right.
They're like, I don't care about that crowd.
Yeah. He's bad. He was bad anyway.
What we do care about is you eating cows.
Yeah.
That's kind of
Like
where
if
PETA's
like
at.
if you wanted to eat that crow, it'd probably be a bad thing. Be in trouble.
Oh, what if you said, I can help you with that crow, and you just grabbed it and barbecued it right there and ate it? They would be like,
They'd be so mad.
sir, what have you done? It's like, well, you wanted it eradicated.
You said it was bad.
We have our techniques for eradication.
Oh my gosh. My mom told me this morning that she saw in the newspaper, like the front page, that they were cutting funding for earth modification, and people were scrambling and getting really freaked out about it. Like
You know what? That's another
they
thing.
don't want the funding cut.
That's another thing that's probably real opaque is
Mhm.
okay, what was the funding?
Right.
What were the levels of spending?
Yeah.
Because I recently did an Excel spreadsheet with all of the money that I had to spend, you know, being just me and my daughter, here's how much it is every month. And it was gnarly when you break it down. Have
Yeah.
you ever done that? Have you
No.
ever gone and done that for your family?
I don't want to see it.
You go to a spreadsheet and you go every single transaction for the entire month and you
That's
just break it down and
yeah.
take a look at how much you spend. And it's eye opening,
Yeah.
right? To see like the client, the earth modification spending.
I know.
I want to see
Well,
the tail of the tape.
when my mom told me about that, like what I started thinking of is what you're asking right there. Like, what is the funding? And then I thought, is this just like some,
Sounds like a narrative.
yeah, some scare tactic to like tell everybody, oh no, we're not going to have funding anymore for earth modification. So like everybody gets more scared. Like
I
now we're
always
not going to be
love.
able to micromanage the earth.
I hate that. I love when a cult member comes out and starts like browbeating us about like wild spending from our government
Hmm.
when they're the ones that are doing these insane things. Like
Yeah.
what was that one? It was and I think this was an actual a line item and I do believe it's real. It was transgender shrimp in some country and we were spending like millions of dollars on it.
Oh my gosh.
I'm not joking. Like transgender shrimp. And we're studying it, and it was millions of dollars funding for this project.
That sounds like, like the artwork that some of the elite like to say they're selling.
Yeah.
Sort of sounds like a money laundering scheme to me.
Yeah. Well, that's what I think. So
Yeah.
that whenever they come out and they're like, we're wasting money on this, like, oh my God, please
Yeah.
spare me.
Right.
You know,
Yeah.
it's a more of a narrative. What it is we're driving your behavior.
Yeah.
Because I think a lot of these people, they take their cues from the media.
Yeah.
That's how
So,
they think.
so the people reading that front page, like some of them are going to be like all freaked out, like, oh my gosh, the earth isn't going to be able to be modified anymore.
You
And,
know what it
you know,
is? This is the Kool-Aid. It's Trump and Elon are bad because they're not going along with the earth modification. And we need to keep the funding up high. Guys, we're going to die.
yeah. Well, then also there's like the people that are working for those, departments where they do the earth modification. And like, I'm wondering, is it to rile them up too? Like thinking like, oh no, I might lose my job because, they're cutting the funding and stuff. And then,
Well, because I think what I'm starting to
but we don't
realize,
even know what the funding is.
whenever they're trying to nudge, they start with fear. They start with fear.
Totally.
It's kind of like the MK Ultra, like playbook.
Trauma.
It's
Trauma.
trauma.
Mm-hmm.
It's trauma, but people are already traumatized. Like we talked about before. I think if you go up to your typical American and you gave them like sodium pentothal, you know what that stuff is?
Is that the truth serum?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So if you give them sodium pentothal and they can't lie, and you say, "Are you really afraid most of the time?" They'd be like, "Yes, yes, yes, I am." And so I think you already have people in this state of, I would say, constant fear,
Mm-hmm. A lot of anxiety.
a lot of anxiety.
And then those people like to take a lot of drugs for that problem,
They got drugs,
which
they got
is
their
mind
happy
control.
pills,
Mind control.
So before they go unalive themselves from the doorknob with a scarf, they sit there and they look at their news feed, and the news feed just gives them a little, like a pinch of fear to just go with your normal anxiety.
Mm-hmm.
And it just kind of drives that behavior. And it's like, okay, you need to be angry. I think what I'm reading there is they're trying to like get the two blue pills to fight each other.
Oh yeah, for sure. That's what they're trying to do. Yeah.
Because what did they do? Because now one of the narratives on InfoWars, which is now I'm realizing is narratives.
Mm-hmm.
They have all narratives there too. I
They
used to
do.
think that was like the anti-narrative narrative, but it's not.
No.
So the narrative now is, well, Bill Gates is calling out Elon because he's bad. And why is Elon bad? Well, he's not caring about the poor people.
Oh.
But wait a minute, this is Bill Gates, who, remember, in the TED Talks in 2015 came out and said, if we do a really good job with healthcare, we can knock this number down by 15, maybe 20%. And what number was he talking about?
People don't really remember that.
Yeah, what number was he talking about knocking down 15, 20%? The population of the earth?
Yeah.
Yeah, the human population.
Yeah.
So now suddenly he's mad because Elon doesn't care about poor people. This is also Bill Gates. You remember that one picture where he's like dropping polio and that little black kid's like in Africa? He's like dropping it in his mouth, and the kid's all horrified, and Bill Gates all grinning and like,
well, he like paralyzed and killed a lot of kids there with his polio shots.
As a matter of fact, I was reading something. Every instance of polio that's existing on Earth right now is from Bill Gates.
I believe that.
Literally.
Mm-hmm.
So he like went, see what they do, I'm realizing it, is these BSL labs,
Mm-hmm.
and he funds a lot of them.
Mm-hmm.
There's like 450 BSL, which I think means bioweapons safety level 4.
And
which
they're all
means,
funded by Bill Gates.
yeah, a lot of them. Yeah, I think what they do there is they don't help people. They create stuff to try to kill people. And then they go and give people diseases, and then they go, let's see. Okay, we can give them this disease. Now let's come up with like some gnarly drugs. And then we can call it a vaccine. And we can give it to people, and we can just show this guy who we just made sick, and we'll say, this is gonna happen to you unless you take this.
There was an outbreak of one person.
Think about how
in the
serious it is.
Midwest.
That's what they do with Ebola.
There was a one-person outbreak.
Remember, it was like, oh, there's always one guy in Texas with Ebola.
Yeah.
It's like, how did that one guy in Texas?
Yeah.
Well, he traveled from Uganda and he caught it there. It's like,
and he happened to like stop at a clinic there and get a shot.
So
I wonder how that happened.
I'm starting to think what they do is they're constantly trying to stoke fear, because the fear is the control mechanism.
Totally.
And I think that when you go out to visit the island, it's kind of like anxiety almost. Like you would think, oh, it's going to be nice and relaxing out there. No, it's kind of like going to the airport and like
everything has to be. I'm surprised there weren't like little like those roped off like
turnstiles.
Turnstile. Yeah. Yeah, totally.
They're like butterfly. can you please stand over here?
You're an invasive species.
You're invasive. That's why we brought you out here.
Yeah.
You just get dude on the island. We're just gonna do you out here. Well, you know what? I think that's like so many of our rabbit holes
Yeah.
where I think
It
what you
just
do, you look at the dynamics of the rabbit hole, you look at the behavior of the rabbit hole, and then you think, okay, what are the characteristics? Wow, look at how it mirrors these
totally.
other.
Well, that's exactly what it did. It was like the microcosm of like a much bigger picture. I thought, you know what? This is just a small example of how Mother Nature is being micromanaged
You know what I think the boil down
unnecessarily.
is? I think it always goes back to Larry Fink.
Hmm.
Larry Fink going, we're going to drive behavior with financial instruments. That's what he said.
Hmm.
So I think it all goes back to that. I think I'm starting to kind of see the agenda, right? I think they're desperate now. The cult is desperate because they're losing power. And I think they know that
Hmm.
because there's too many people onto them. So what they're doing is they're like, the way that we got to get back in control is micromanagement.
Right.
We micromanage everything and we get all these people back under our thumb
Yeah.
because I think we're kind of getting out from under their thumb a little bit.
Yeah.
And they're like, we don't like that.
And you know what? If they can micromanage everybody like down to the tiniest little detail, most people don't even realize it's being done. You know what I mean? Because they're micromanaging at the top and then they micromanage like the people below them start micromanaging the people below them. And then before you know it, you can only get like free samples at Sephora and you have to come back the next day.
I asked the other lady. I asked the other lady.
Yeah.
You already had three. You know what it makes me think of too? North Korea.
Totally. They've been micromanaged for so long they don't even realize it.
Their micromanagement's gnarly.
Yeah.
Like, well, first of all, Kim Jong Il gets to be fat, and they all get to be like shrinking
Yeah.
literally because they don't get enough food.
Yeah, they're all malnourished.
So that's like micromanaging your food.
Yeah.
But then, have you ever noticed they do this thing where everybody gathers into the stadium,
Hmm.
and everybody on the field and everybody in the seats is part of this performance that's recorded from like a drone above it.
It's not creepy or anything.
It's well, so then everybody on cue flips over their whatever they're holding. So it becomes like this. It's beautiful.
It's a big show, but even
It's a
the
big
audience
show.
is part of it.
And the audience is part of it, and it's all everybody does exactly what they're told when they're told to do it.
Right.
And
And nobody like says no.
so it's kind of like a model of communism.
Uh-huh.
That's what I think is what they want.
Right.
They want everybody to do exactly what they're supposed to do, exactly when they're supposed to do it. I don't like that.
I don't either.
I don't want that.
I don't like to be micromanaged.
I got mad at the dude at the weed place the other day.
What happened?
Well, so you go in and he goes, sir, can you just stand over here? And he's micromanaging me 2 feet away. So he's telling me, don't stand here, stand 2 feet over there. And I refused.
You're such a rebel.
Yeah, and he bristled with like, oh, believe almost wanted to kick me out because I wouldn't move 2 feet over. But I think that's like because what I notice is remember how we talked about the walkers?
Yeah.
They share the characteristics of the cult. The cult are what are they? They're megalomaniacs. And they're also
psychopaths.
they're psychopaths. They're psychopathic megalomaniacs. So the walkers who carry out the micromanagement, they're psychopathic megalomaniacs too.
Yeah.
And so what they do is they're psychopaths, so they have no empathy for you. So they tell you what to do, and if you go against it, then you go against their megalomania. So now they're like, how dare you go against me? No, you move. And so I think what I've kind of started to do in defiance is just not allow myself to be micromanaged. Because it's not a law. Anything that goes against the Constitution is repugnant. So you can't legally mandate me. You gotta stand here. No. You can kick me out.
Yeah.
I'll go get my chicken sandwich somewhere else. You're not moving me. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So,
well, that's kind of like a theme for a lot of our shows is that, we don't have to comply. And that's like what we went through during the cooties fiasco when so many people were just like, okay. And we were like, no, not okay.
And look at how a band of rebels
Mm-hmm.
stood against the empire.
Mm-hmm.
And we would all have been mandated to take the shots or go to FEMA camps if it wasn't for the fact that our movement was strong and worldwide.
Right.
And we were pioneers in that. We
Totally.
have to give ourselves props for that. So, but what the reason I bring it up is because the cult is not invincible.
No,
The
they're not.
cult is not invincible. What we need to do is have the courage to stand up and say no.
You just say no. Remember that
Just say no.
drug?
What was that, James
Yeah,
Worthy?
it was
It was the Lakers, right?
well, they had a whole thing in like the 80s or 90s about
Well, it
the
was
drugs.
Ronald Reagan's wife,
Yeah,
right?
she had this
Nancy,
whole like
just say no to drugs.
PR campaign. Just
But
say
the
no.
the Lakers when they won the world championship, like in 1988, James Worthy, who had a really low voice, he was like, "Just say no, just say no to drugs." But you know what's interesting?
Yeah.
That's another contradiction. They say just say no to drugs, except these
Except the
drugs.
drugs we want you to take.
Yeah.
Yeah. Everything they do is a contradiction. Totally.
Well, that was a great rabbit hole.
It was.
That was so cool because it was organic, no pun intended,
Right.
just based on your experience.
Yeah. And
So weird.
I mean, it kind of opens your eyes to the bigger picture,
You know what? You're so nice too, because you were still talking about how sweet she was, but she was definitely drunk on the Kool-Aid.
There's a lot of sweet people who are just drunk and
And
indoctrinated.
what we have to hope is that they can wake up. But you know what was kind of disconcerting is how happy she was in her Kool-Aid.
Yeah. Well, most of, like when you get drunk, you're usually kind of happy. I think
Yeah.
that's kind of a problem. We need to like get the Kool-Aid away from people.
You know what's going to happen is she's going to get hungover.
Sometimes that happens.
She's going to get
Now,
hungover and be like, oh,
do
I'm
you
kind
think
of sick of the Kool-Aid.
do you think some of the people might like get so drunk on the Kool-Aid that they'll get hungover? I
Yeah.
think that happens.
Oh, that happened to
I
one
think
lady.
that happens.
Did you see this one lady who was like an influencer and she
Hmm.
died of starvation the other day?
No.
No, you didn't see this?
What? Oh gosh.
So she was really drunk on the Kool-Aid and it was a
Oh,
vegan.
oh gosh.
So she was just like, I'm a strict vegan diet. And she died of starvation because I don't eat meat. Well, her body did not get the nutrients that it needed and she died of starvation.
Oh
So I
my
think that's kind of like the
gosh.
hangover when you're on the
Yeah.
blue pill so long that you like die of starvation.
Yeah.
Because I think if you drink the Kool-Aid, that's the logical end that the Kool-Aid takes you to. It's
Yeah.
like, can you just go ahead and unalive
Well,
yourself?
they're leading everyone to their demise. So
Yeah.
that's why we're hoping that people will wake up and
Like when you start drinking the Kool-Aid, it should like come with like
a disclaimer.
a disclaimer or like side effects. And one of
Yeah.
the side effects is like you might like mail order your own coffin and gas yourself and just will come pick you out. That might happen.
They'll put the phone number on there. You call this number and we'll set it up for
If you
you.
decide to unalive yourself, we're here for you.
In fact, just prearrange it just in case.
As a matter of fact, remember when we were kids, it was like suicide hotline.
Yeah.
If you ever feel like doing it, call us and we'll talk you out of it.
Yeah.
Now it's like suicide hotline, we'll talk you into it.
Totally.
Like I'm not suicidal, but I might be. Okay, let me
When
tell
you
you.
get off the phone with us, you will be.
Let me tell you all the reasons why.
We'll send you a scarf.
We've got it down to a science. No pun intended.
Yeah.
Okay.
Well,
Well,
that was a
okay.
fun rabbit hole.
Did you have anything else you wanted to point out about that
No,
one?
but I'm sure that this will lead to other rabbit holes.
They always
They
do.
always do.
That one totally did.
I know.
That was so cool.
I'll talk to you soon.
Okay.
Bye.